everyone knows there's no such thing as a cheap Porsche. And unfortunately for me, I decided to test that theory. And unfortunately,
because you fixed it how many times? 6, 7, and it's still not working.
I proved that that theory is right. Or at least I have done for the past 18 months. But today, that thing's getting fixed. And in this video, we're going to see every single problem that this Porsche's got. And it's a lot. The question is this Cayenne a project too far? We're at 10 PSI and I can already hear coolant leaking. This car has got more issues than an average politician. So, I'm going to have to take all of this airbox out by the looks of it to get down to the alternator, which is somewhere down there. The problem with this alternator is it only comes out in one specific orientation, and the thing weighs around 10 kilograms. Just to fit it through this small opening in the wheel arch, it's not a straightforward job. There is the alternator. And I've already been told that removing the alternator from a V8 Cayenne like this is universally regarded as a bit of a nightmare. If everything goes to plan, it takes around 5 hours, but things don't always go to plan. We can see the alternator right down there. Start taking the air boxes out and the air intake system. Disconnected the electrical connector, and we're going to try and take this fan out shortly once we've got the rest of this out. So I'm going to start by removing all of the intake pipes, and that's going to give me access to the fan, which I'm going to remove. And the disassembled parts are starting to rack up. That's the fan out. So I think I'm going to take this lower radiator hose off to drain the coolant. Didn't aim that too well, did I? Now I've got a fair amount of coolant everywhere, which is annoying to say the least. And that coolant looks in pretty terrible condition, which maybe gives a hint to the maintenance schedule of this car in its previous life. Fortunately, it's getting a full flush. So I've just taken out a 5th bolt, and I figured that was the last one. But I'm obviously missing something somewhere, because that alternator is still not coming out. And this is why this job's so difficult, because so many bolts are hidden out of sight. And this is exactly what I mean. It's arm's length deep into the engine bay, and that's one of them. Now taking these coolant pipes out so that I can try and get to the last couple of bolts in front of the alternator. The new alternator is really expensive for these, so we're going to try and fix this one. It's very, very tight. I think this coolant hose is going to have to come off to get to another bolt, which I didn't realise was there. I've just got these last two, but I've said that before. Yeah, so whether or not I'm right or not is very, very debatable right now, because I haven't been right so far. Now I do wonder whether or not this pipe has been causing a bit of a problem with the alternator. You can see it's broken on the end, and this is a coolant intake pipe, so we are going to have to replace this. And you can see on the end that it's snapped and left part of it still in there, as indeed is the old O-ring. But at the minute I'm still playing hide and seek with these bolts, trying to get this alternator out. And as well as the many hidden bolts, we've also got these 2 electrical connectors to get off at the back of the alternator. It's still pretty tight, and I'm still not entirely clear how much of this I have to take off to get it through. Looking at that pulley on the front of the alternator, I don't see how it's going to come through this gap. So, I've taken the bracket that holds those electrical connectors off there. You can see that's just off now. And I've just got these last 2 connectors, and then should come out of this gap here. Fingers crossed. Not quite sure how yet, but it does, allegedly. 10 kilos! 10 kilos this weight! Ah! Right, for anybody trying to get this out, this is the way to do it. You've got to get this pulley kind of facing here, and then pull it up and push all of these electrical connectors back. And this took me an unreasonable amount of time to figure out how to rotate the alternator to get it out through the hole. I tried so many different ways, and I even had to bend a bracket. Oh, there is the offending alternator out of the Porsche, and that doesn't look in good condition, does it? It's got to be said. So take that off and see if we can get that rebuilt. Porsche engineers have done the Porsche owners bad. They're just kidding you and trying to wind you up and tease you. But yeah, that's where it goes, through that little hole. Getting a big thing through a small hole. Not something I've experienced. So the face is definitely a little bit dirty from rubbing it all over this engine bay on this 955. However, that alternator is now out, and we can get that off and get it rebuilt. And hopefully we can get it back into the car, and fingers crossed it fixes this problem. Now we've got the alternator back in the car, which was basically just the reversal of taking it out. So I'm not going to show you that because it's going to be pretty boring for you. It's the same thing that you've already watched. It's like a little T-junction thing. Unfortunately, that is no longer available from Porsche, and it was also quite expensive when it was. So I've managed to find this, which is a replacement one of those, but it comes with the whole pipe. This is from my boys at Design 911. So let me pull my hose out. I need to be careful saying that in the street. And it's nice that this hose from Design 911 actually comes with some replacement clips as well. Now, despite my best efforts, I could not get this to seat correctly within the alternator. It just would not push in, almost as if something was blocking it. And if I go back to this clip here, you can see the remnants of the old pipe still stuck in the alternator. But we figured we'd got all of those out, but perhaps not. This has already got an O-ring in there, fitted onto the pipe into a groove. And this is an O-ring that I ordered from Porsche. And I think that this actually doesn't need to go on this. I'll show you a photo. I did originally fit this onto this, and then I really couldn't push this in. And I think it's just because it needs that single O-ring. Eventually I realised something must be stuck in there. I managed to get a pick deeper in, and we got out the offending piece. And we were ready to start the car and see if the alternator was working. Moment of truth. Well, the Porsche won't start again. It's a curse of the Porsche. And I'm not quite sure why at this stage, but I've got a feeling it might be the starter motor. That is worst case scenario. If it is the starter motor, then that starter motor is buried under the intake right at the bottom of the valley of the V of this big V8 engine. And that means it's also next to the coolant pipes, which are notorious for breaking on these 955 Cayennes. So right now we're going to have to strip all of that back and take everything out to get to that starter. And we're probably going to have to take out the coolant pipes as well and try not to break them, because I don't want the £400 expense of having to replace them. I do know that the starter motor is somewhere underneath all of this lot. And I've not stripped down a 955 Cayenne before. Literally just starting to take some of this pipe work off. So I'm trying to work out effectively what has to come off here. I think some of this is going to have to come off. So let's get dismantling, because that's the name of the game, is getting all these cars back on the road. It is very bright today, very sunny, very hot. 27 degrees, it's very nice. And the next job is to get the secondary air pumps undone so that I can pull them out of the way. So try and get these long bolts out. There we go. So that's both of the secondary air pumps out of the way. Gonna have to undo all of these for all of the 8 cylinders, and then there's a bunch of bolts securing this in, and then I'm going to have to depressurize these fuel rails. Gonna have to disconnect a few things at the back up here, certainly this fuel line here. I'm just gonna crack these off, and then I'll use the ratchet on these. Don't know what the torque setting is, but they're reasonably tight. Probably going to need a wobble to get to the one at the back. It's tucked right away at the back. Very difficult actually seeing where the screwdriver is pressing the clipping on the back. I can see it from the side, which is giving me a little bit more confidence to tug on it like that. Taking the caps off these, and I'm just going to release this by trying to find a really small screwdriver to just push in there, or a hex or something like that. And I'm just going to use a dirty old rag. Just going to chuck that over the top and try and hopefully not get petrol everywhere. Big flat-nosed Cornwells. I love Cornwell pliers. They're great. I'm going sideways, try and see if I can push that and get a grip. There we go. And that is that one off. So that's 4 of the 8 off now. I'm better flip onto the other side. I can't, the sun is so bright, and I'm not complaining because it's glorious, but I can't actually see what I'm trying to get here. But we're close, we're getting close to getting this off, which is good. And that is a 19 by the looks of it. And having depressurised the fuel rails, taking these fuel pipes off shouldn't cause me too much of a spillage all over this intake. To get this out now, I need to be careful because I don't want anything dropping into this engine, obviously. So disconnected the vacuum pipe on the back side of this, and that should be, oh it's not, I've still got some electrical connectors that I forgot at the front. Fingers crossed this is everything finally disconnected, even though I'm not remotely sure that it actually is. But let's See if we can get this out. So that's that. Now out. There is a starter motor. So we need to watch all this crap doesn't go into the engine and not drop anything in. Actually,
it's all down the side as well.
You know something, it's not that dirty, Snake.
It isn't.
Not as bad as I anticipated it would be. The next decision we have to make is whether or not to try and deal with the thermostat problem. I've got to this stage and I can get the starter motor out without taking these coolant pipes out, and as much as I don't want to break them, I've decided to do the thermostat because the thermostat is or has stuck in the past, which means it's on its way out. And this is such a big job, it'd be absolutely stupid of me not to go and do the thermostat after it's been sat there and sticking. So the next job is to get these crankcase ventilation pipes out of the way, and then right at the back is a bracket that holds the coolant pipes down, and I think some other stuff that goes underneath it, and the 3 pipes to take off. Once that is out, it's also going to give me easier access to the starter motor, which is stuck under there. So I'm not going to have to mess around with all of that weird rotation to get it out. Now I have phoned 2 of my local motor factories this morning. Neither of them can get either the thermostat or the starter motor. I can't even order it in. Actually, those guys can't even order it in. So we'll have to ring a few more. If not, it's going to have to be a eBay purchase. If you are a parts company and you want to do a deal and supply me with some parts on various projects, because I'm going to be rebuilding quite a few cars, please hit me up in the comments. Oh, there we go. There we go. It's just years of crud and crap just stopping that from moving. There we go. So that's the plastic bracket off. So we're left with these pipes to disconnect, and this pipe here has to come off. And we're right in amongst these 21-year-old plastic coolant pipes now, and that's where the risk starts to become real. Oh God, that is on so tight. What the hell? Why's that little 10mm like that? Oh. Yeah, that worries me how tight that was on. Makes me think that getting this pipe off is going to be a pain in the backside. Get that little washer. Yep. And that's exactly why we put rags down here in case we drop things, like I just dropped that. And as we've got quite a few bolts to undo, I'll use a little bit of YouTube magic and let's jump to light speed. And a lot of these clips, bolts and pipes have not been removed for, well, 21 years, so they're just pretty stuck on. And these 3 coolant hoses have to come off the back of the coolant pipes. These are right at the back of the engine, and honestly, I'm 6'3" and I'm really stretching just to get here. I feel if you're any shorter than me, you're going to end up actually sitting in this engine bay just to be able to reach these. With those hoses removed, I can start the very gentle job of trying to get these coolant pipes out without breaking them. If something goes wrong here, then it's going to cost me £400, which is around $550, so I need to be careful. This pipe here is well and truly stuck on. I have tried to prise it from behind really gently, but so far no joy. I should get this screwdriver in behind here, but you know, it's bending this. I'm not entirely comfortable with it, but come on pipes, please don't break. Come on. Come to daddy. It's coming out. There we go. Come on. Come on. Oh, there we go. There we go. That is good. Now I can get to this last one. So whilst I've got this pipe off here, I have noticed that I'm going to have to take it off down here. So we've got that coolant pipe out now. Work out how this comes out of here. Come out from below, above, below, above. Which way do you go? Everything on this is a puzzle. It's like in the board game Operation. If you're my age, you'll remember that board game. There we go. Where you used to have to get like body parts out of this thing, and if you touched it, it went off and sent a buzzer and you lost the game. Yeah, this is like Operation, this Porsche. Got in there with a couple of pliers to get those out. A couple of pliers, what am I on about? A couple of screwdrivers. This one does not want to come off. And on top of that, I've also got coolant on my shoe, on the sole of my trainer. And I'm standing on an alloy. So I think you can guess what's happening there, can't you? It's a little bit on the slippy side. So now this should just be about free. I'll be very careful with this. If, however, I do break these pipes, then I will be buying the upgraded set from Design 911 for £391, which includes the metal pipes and all of the gaskets. But before I do that, I'm going to try to avoid spending that money. And right now we've got access to the starter motor. I've got to decide whether or not I'm going to actually test this to see whether or not it's totally gone.
Is that live all the time? Put a jump lead from there to the starter motor, see if it spins.
Well, there's no battery connected at the minute for safety reasons. Always useful to get a classic health and safety joke in. Starter motor out now, so I've got these wires to get off. Come on. And there's 2 bolts, one here and one, I think, probably somewhere underneath. I'm going to use a really long extension here to get clearance past that starter motor, and hopefully this is not on too tight. Of course it is. Everything's on absolutely. God, my God, man. What the hell? Man, that is on so tight. That's ridiculous. Where's a torque spec on this? Right, wiped out my knuckles a few times. That's cracked it. In typical Porsche fashion, this last bolt is tucked right away at the back and very inaccessible. This is actually a Halford's 3/8 set with the long extension, and it fits perfect. So if you are doing this job, I recommend you use that. Never believe what I've just done. There's a good chance that I'm an idiot, to be fair, because what I've done is use the electric ratchet to get this out, and of course it's I didn't even spot that he's buttered right up against buttered right up against where the coolant pipes go into the thermostat housing. And the switch on the ratchet to turn it back to clockwise so I could wind this back in is of course now backed up against the thermostat housing. At the time of doing this, I absolutely found this hysterical. I couldn't believe that I'd actually been so stupid. And I actually had to get Nicola to come and get a finger down to be able to turn the switch and get me out of trouble. What an idiot I am. Ah, that is hilarious. I find that funny, I really do. That just made me laugh so much. I'll try and get it out manually. Thank you for your small hands, or smaller hands. And with that moment of stupidity out of the way, I could actually get back with trying to get the starter motor out of this Porsche. I'm actually glad that I decided to take the thermostat and the cooling pipes out. Cooling pipe, I keep saying that. Yeah, I'm actually glad that I decided to take the thermostat and the coolant pipes out, because it saved me having to mess around getting this starter motor kind of through that really tiny hole. So let's put that starter motor down there. That is kaput. We might try and rebuild it if we can't get one, which at the moment we're not able to get one at a sensible price. Can get one from a local motor factors, but it's nearly 400 quid. Thanks to Car Parts Saver and Race Parts Performance Shop on eBay, both of those companies have managed to supply the part the next day, even though I didn't actually order it from one of them until the afternoon. So we've got a Borg Warner thermostat here for the Cayenne, and we also have a new starter motor, and these were cheap. So that starter motor I think worked out about £68 or something, which is crazy because Porsche wanted I think £870 plus VAT, and the thermostat was about £44. And that works out about $152, which is a great price for both. But now I can actually start putting this Cayenne back together. I'm hoping that there's no other issues. Here are the coolant pipes from this 955 Cayenne. And if we look at this, this is the thermostat that we're going to replace. I have to push this down and twist it basically to get it out. We're going to reuse the gasket, which doesn't look to be... And that's another one of the many decisions on this Porsche, which may well come back to bite me. It sits into a little groove there. I don't know if you can actually see that little groove. These are a mid, and this is a 30mm. Yeah, that's going to work. So we can actually press that down. Come on. There we go. So this is your offending problem. This has been the intermittent working thermostat. Here is the new thermostat, which is nice and clean. It's probably going to be a bit harder to get back in. It feels like that's not going down enough. What is going on here? Well, they're both 83 degrees. They're both the same, except this pin is slightly shorter on this one. That spring is definitely tighter. There is a little notch in this shaft, and I don't know if you can actually see it. And I'm wondering whether or not, when this is getting pressed down, if it's catching on that notch from one side and then stopping it from actually seating itself in or pressing any lower. It's not a force issue, but maybe it's just a position issue. There we go. Nice. Okay. I'm just going to tap this a little bit further in. Start a motor. I'm going to go and soak up this coolant first of all. That's the first job before I get this anywhere near it. I've got the starter motor just into position, cleaned it up pretty much as best as I can, and I just need to bolt this back up before we do these electrical connections. Yeah. I'm just trying to fit this starter motors up. And in the middle of this we did have a slight camera accident. Absolutely just dropped the GoPro down into the coolant. Getting this bottom bolt back into the alternator is difficult, so I decided to use this US Pro telescopic magnet to try and just feed it through. It was the best idea that I could come up with at the time, so we're going to find out whether or not it works. Listen, very difficult. I can't actually see what's going on here as well. I'm entirely blind. Don't know if I've got it in the hole. Is it in yet? That's a question that we all ask. Certainly a question that my other half asks. I can't actually see down there. I need to get a better view. By using my phone as a camera and getting it in and putting it on zoom, I was able to get in between these pipes and guide that bolt in. Coolant pipe back into situ. Unfortunately, so far we've managed to avoid breaking them, which is a result. I just have to get the 3 hoses connected at the back. I'm pretty happy with how this is going so far. It's still absolutely red hot out here. It's about 5 o'clock and it's still 27 degrees. So apologies if you've seen the top of my bald head. It's not the best. Unfortunately, I remembered to put the lower plastic bracket back in, but I also need to be really careful pulling the coolant hoses back onto the coolant pipes. But they're almost on, so yeah, let's try and finish off getting these properly back on. So the coolant pipes are now in, the brackets back on, all of the pipes are clipped up, starter motor's obviously connected, and yeah, just getting this pipe back in now. And it's great to be getting this thing back together. We're getting closer to being able to give it another attempt at a first start. That's the electrical connectors for the fuel rail clipped in. That's the intake manifold back on, the fuel line connected, all the fuel rail connectors, electrical connectors done. Secondary air pumps to go back on. We've got another pipe to go back on, most of the electrical connectors done. But yeah, that's pretty much nearly there. Everything's now back together and we can probably try to start it. So we're going to try and start it without a jump pad, and I'm not sure that the battery's still got any life in it, but we're going to give it a go. A lot of tools in this car. And the dead alternators definitely led to a dead battery in the car. I'd better go and get a jump pack. And after a lot of hard work, I was pretty excited to fire this thing back up and hear that V8 engine again. And let's give it another go. Don't know if it's going to be enough to start it. I don't know if that battery is actually kaput. Game over for the battery, maybe. But even with the jump pack on, it wouldn't start. Nothing. Linked up to the Porsche. Let's give this another go. Fingers crossed for this. Oh, come on. Come on, Porsche. Come on. No, nothing. And it should definitely jump start off a jump pack on a running car. But despite more amps than a Linkin Park concert, the Porsche still wouldn't fire. Still can't get this to
12.7 down there on the battery.
12.7, so we're showing 12.7 volts at the battery. But there's something obviously that's stopping power getting to that starter. I'm going to go through a lot of the cables and wires because there has to be a wiring issue somewhere that's causing this problem. I'm probably going to do a little bit of this off camera, so let me jump into that and try and go through it. It's pretty boring to watch, I imagine, so I'll go through just checking cables, etc. So I'm going to go from the starter motor, the battery, I'm going to go from the alternator, I'm going to check the ground straps, I'm going to do everything, make sure everything is really clean, really secure. I'm pretty certain that the problem lies somewhere within those cables. So I've been going through all the cables and cleaning things up a little bit. So I'm now going to do the ground strap, which is from the chassis to the engine. There we go. Let's have a look through every cable now and cleaned them all up. So we've got plenty of fresh shiny metal on all of these ground straps. And I've tested a few of the cables in the meantime, and I'm now going to fit this one back on. Just having a look to see if I can get a better location for the ground strap. So if I can get it onto an alternator mounting bolt, then we've got a direct ground from the alternator straight to the chassis, which would be good. A good location, to be fair. And I just need to connect it up at this end now. I have been through every cable, every connection, every wire to the best of my ability. I've cleaned everything up, I've wire wheeled it all. Here is the Porsche key, and I'm now going to go and see if this thing will actually start. I'm also going to remove this cap because it's going to get chewed up by the fan, which wouldn't be great. So I guess this is a moment of truth. Have we fixed it? Let's pop the key in. Get in! And he's started, that is amazing. Some faults on the engine. Not sure what's going on, but obviously we've still got low coolant. I'm just going to have a little look at the fault codes anyway while I'm here. Now with the battery, alternator and starter motor off, it's not unsurprising to see a bunch of fault codes. However, whilst we were doing this, we heard the unmistakable trickle of coolant. And that means that once again, this Porsche keeps fighting back. Why? Where are you leaking from now? Why are you being like this? Now, because we've disturbed coolant pipes at various stages, it's highly likely that this coolant is coming from one of the drainage channels up in the valley of the engine. And as I don't have a coolant pressure testing kit here, that basically means I've got to take everything back off again and have a really good look around at what I've either disturbed or might have broken. So hard to tell, basically. You know, there is coolant down here, but there was coolant down here before, and I've had a good look around. And because I didn't fully clean the coolant up before, it's difficult to know if this is fresh coolant from a leak or remnants of the old coolant. But whilst I was looking around at the top end, I also had a little look around elsewhere, and I spotted something. One thing I have just noticed, when I had my phone down next to that oil cooler, and you can't see it from above, if you look from here you can't actually see it, but there's two hoses into that oil cooler. And the one that's on the left, kind of here, it looks like I've not put the hose clamp fully down on that. So, but it just doesn't look like it's fully down. I'm not saying that that is the cause of the problem, but that is literally right next to where that coolant is coming out of. But after a little bit of contortion and squeezing, managed to get that clip fully back in place and put the intake back together. So we're going to get this intake manifold connected all back up again. I've just popped it into situ there, and connect the fuel pipes, connect everything back up together, Probably not going to connect some of the air pipes at the start. We'll just see if we've got a coolant leak. I'm going to turn it on, run it, and just test it that way and see whether or not it's actually leaking. I'm hoping it is not leaking, and I'm hoping that the leak was coming from that bottom pipe where the clip just wasn't on properly, quite frankly. And with these pipes getting connected, I'm quietly hoping that this Porsche is finally fixed. Let's be honest though, I've said that before in this video. Connected correctly, but it is definitely out of position somewhere along the lines. There we go. That's into there. Let's see if she will still start. But well, she's fired up, and I can tell straight away that I've not connected something somewhere. Right, turn that off because I've obviously missed something. Obviously missed something somewhere. Let's have a little look, see what the hell we've missed. What have I done, what have I done, what have I done? Aha. Here, that's what I'm missing. Let's get this one plugged back in. Ah, there we go to go. Still hunting a bit there. So the Cayenne is in the background, and I've put all of the air pipes back in on the intake, and it's running a little bit better. I'm just running up to temperature. I've topped the coolant up, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, please, 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 that leak does not reappear. There's still a good chance that there's a leak in the V of that V8 from either something like the one of the plastic coolant pipes or something around there. I'm just hoping to God that there isn't. I do not want to have to take this apart again and put it back together, get it up to temperature and put it under some pressure and see what happens. And unfortunately, we've still got coolant coming out. So this Porsche is still leaking, and today I'm going to strip this down again and try and find this leak once and for all. We've already fixed one leaking pipe on this, but when we put it all back together, it was just leaking again, which isn't great. So today me and Zach are going to strip this one down. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to use a coolant pressure testing kit that I borrowed from my friend Ian. We're going to strip this down, look at it, test the system under pressure, try and find all of these leaks and fix them. It's going to be an interesting day. Now I've sped this up considerably because I'm sure that you guys are probably as sick of watching this as I am of taking it apart. But it's back to ripping off that intake again and getting into the V of the engine so we can take a look at all of the pipe work, the coolant pipes, and try and figure out where this leak is once and for all. And now I've got a coolant pressure tester, I can avoid ending up in hospital with 3rd-degree burns, and I can keep it under pressure for longer, and fingers crossed we can find every single remaining leak. So we're going to screw this, that's a Volkswagen adapter in there. And then I was able to pressurise the cooling system to around 14 psi. Sorry that this is in time-lapse mode, but you get to see the crankcase ventilation pipe spurting coolant absolutely everywhere. Get in! Come on, I'm so happy. We found the leak, so hopefully I don't have to take this apart any more times. Of course, it might not be the only leak, but let's get the part ordered and get it fitted. These are little push fittings to get these off, and sometimes they're really awkward. Shout out to the boys from Design 911 because this part has arrived within a day. So this is the replacement crankcase ventilation, crankcase ventilation breather pipe. So we're going to get this on now, and then we're going to pressurise the system and see whether or not it's still leaking. This was £21 delivered, which is phenomenal, and I didn't order it until something like 3 o'clock yesterday. I'll try and push this in. We're just going to connect these into where they need to go. So I need to test this by repressurising the system. So we're at 14 psi and that pipe is not leaking for sure. So let's definitely fix that problem. So does that actually mean that we are finally in the clear? Ah man, we are still leaking coolant, unbelievably. No, it does not. Yeah. So it's not just that pipe. I'm glad we repressurised this, and I think is coming from under the thermostat. So we can assume it's a thermostat gasket. Okay, well we don't have one of those. We should have ordered one yesterday, but we didn't. So the thermostat housing gasket is here. Thank you again, Design 911, for the arrival of this part. And we can now move on and get these coolant pipes out of this Cayenne and try and fit this gasket which goes under here. So it's back to playing Porsche roulette with these coolant pipes, and these things have been in and out more than an Irish sex manual, but once again they've got to come out, and I've got to get to that thermostat housing. And it's amazing how something like a simple coolant leak can just keep coming back to haunt you, and despite the fact that we've fixed this repeatedly, we're still back in trying to fix this problem. This Porsche just does not want to be fixed. Come on, cheeky little coolant pipes, come out to daddy. I'll just try my finger. Not quite there. There we go. You can see where the thermostat goes in here, and it's this gasket here that I think may be leaking. So we're going to replace this gasket that goes around here, clean it up. Definitely going to clean out this as well, because the last thing I want is all of that coolant damaging that new starter motor. That would be frustrating. Get this gasket fitted, get this cleaned up, get this taken out, cleaned up, sorted out. Hopefully that's the last leak, but I just don't think it will be. So I've fixed so much on this car now. We've fixed the alternator, rebuilt that, we've put the starter motor on, and put a new thermostat on. In the middle of all this, we've disassembled this inlet manifold about 4 times. We've had the leak from what we thought was the oil cooler, it was the bottom hose. We put that, fixed that. We've had the leak from this, which was the old crankcase ventilation pipe. We've fixed that with a new one. It was still leaking, and we put it back together and coolant pressure tested it and figured out that we think that this thermostat housing gasket is leaking. There's other things that could be leaking. There really is. I'm just hoping that there isn't. And I got the coolant pipes back in without breaking them, and we're about to repressurise the system and see if I fixed it. We're at 10 psi and I can already hear coolant leaking. Oh! We're about to draft in a serious piece of help here in the form of an experienced, fully trained Porsche diagnostic technician.
That's correct, because you fixed it how many times? 6, 7, and it's still not working.
Yeah, that is actually right. That is actually right, Nicola Connor.
Right, drop it and get a woman on it.
Something that you should be good at, sticking that in.
At least I can find the hole.
Let's see what that hand action's like. Pump it. You're at 5 psi, that's all you've got to, and your arm's aching. I thought that pumping arm has got loads of experience. I thought it should be well trained. What I do know is wherever this is leaking from, it's leaking from somewhere that's really difficult to spot, something that's hidden and just out of sight. The problem we've got now is trying to find it. Worse. Oh man. Getting a bit late and we're still having a play around with this 955 Cayenne. So we decided to drop the oil cooler, so we've drained the oil out of it. I've come to the conclusion this leak is coming from somewhere hidden and lower down, and as this oil cooler is water cooled, then this has got to be on the list of suspects. So it looks like by dropping that oil cooler and pulling the hose through, pressurising it again, that there's a hole, a pinhole somewhere in the hose that's going into the oil cooler. The first port of call is to figure out what the part number for that pipe is, order that pipe, replace that pipe, put it back together and test it again. Oh, this is a hose that's come off. I'm just trying to see if I can see where the actual hole was. This was impossible to see on the outside of the pipe, but you can just see inside here the damage. So the thing that we're replacing now is that coolant hose that I've shown you leaking earlier in this video, and it's a little pinprick hole, but once that's under pressure, once that's under 15 psi pressure, that's absolutely and utterly just squirting out everywhere. Just got the bottom end of the hose on now, we've got the other end to get on, just manipulating the oil cooler as best you can into position and trying to clear a little bit of space. Done this a fair few times now. And with that hose finally back on, which was a bit of a battle, we can repressurise the system. Well, we are at about 13 psi and no leaks. No leaks. So that might be it fixed. That might be all of the coolant problems fixed on this Cayenne. I'm not getting celebratory yet because I still don't believe it, but we can now put the rest of the engine back together and actually run it, and fingers crossed this Cayenne is fixed. Single coolant leak on this Porsche Cayenne finally fixed. No more leaks. We've ran the engine, we've pressure tested it, and everything is holding up fine. But as you might have heard in the engine running clip, this car is still not running right for some reason. Obviously, in these many teardowns of this engine, we have obviously broken something or disturbed something somewhere that's causing this Cayenne not to work. So that's going to be in another episode when we try and finally fix this car and put it back on the road. It wasn't quite an epic failure. We did have some success. We've fixed all the leaks, so we'll consider that a good one. That's it for this week's video on the Porsche. If you've not yet subscribed, smash the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like, leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next one.
You're over. Back on the shelves. Give us a thumbs up.